Genesis chapter 33, Jacob made extensive preparations to meet his estranged brother Esau, as it was recorded in the previous chapters. After all the waiting and the wondering, the moment had finally arrived. Esau is on his way coming to meet Jacob. Will he bring violence, or is he gonna come with peace? Jacob made one more last preparation, and a strategic one, before approaching his brother Esau. He arranged his family into at least 3 distinct groups with some spaces between them. He placed his servants, that is his 2 servants' wives, and their children at the front line, just in case Esau became violent. Next, he places Leah and her children, and then finally, or the last one, was his beloved Rachel and her son Joseph. Given that Jacob is going to approach, Esau first, this is not a cowardly act at all, as some people may want to interpret it. It does, however, show Jacob's open favoritism. I mean, since Rachel and Joseph will have, some sort of an easiest path of escape, just in case Esau became, aggressive and he decided to sort of attack them, it will be easier for Rachel and her son to cannot escape. Jacob then moved in the front. He moved to the front of this procession and he began heading towards his brother Esau, but slowly. Remember, in the previous chapters, he had been hurt with his limb. So at this point, we can see him limping as he moves towards his brother Esau. When he met his brother Esau, or when he came closer to his brother Esau, he stopped 7 times. During the 7 times, he actually bowed down to the ground. Finally, the moment came. Fortunately, Esau did not draw out his sword. That is key. Instead, he ran to Jacob, very excited. He opened up his arms and he threw them all around Jacob. He wept, and both brothers, they kissed. Literally, both men reconciled and wept at this breathtaking reunion, a 20-year-old reunion that was pending to be made. In the process, there was a bit of, historical reminding. There was a bit of conversation. They, reminded of each other of the past, chit-chatted. And then finally, Esau asked Jacob's wives and children who came and bowed before him, treating him as, a prince or a king. In back in the day, whenever you met a king, you'd have to bow 7 times. So the act of Jacob bowing before, Esau 7 times was an implication that, hey, you are a king, or you are my master, and I am your servant. That was the whole idea. So then he says, hey, I can see quite a number of kids here. Who are these? But also he asked about the massive gifts that he'd been receiving over the past days. The massive gifts of goats, massive gifts of camels, the sheep, the cows, and the donkeys. And Jacob replied that these were given to him. These he attained right from, the run where he had been with his uncle for the last 20 years. But also he was giving them back to Esau to find favor in his sight. However, as it was culture back in the day, when somebody gives you a gift, you don't immediately receive it. It's the same thing here in Africa. When somebody offers you a meal, you don't immediately say yes. No, you first reject to enable the other person also sort of insist. So he sort of refused them. He said he had more than enough. Jacob didn't have to, give him those gifts. Regardless, Jacob insisted that Esau take them as evidence that he truly favored him. Then, of course, Jacob asserted, that seeing Esau's face was like seeing God's face. We'll see that in verses 8 to 10. Finally, Esau agreed the gifts. he accepted them and he took them on from Jacob. There was a bit of, chit-chatting. This is more of a summary. I want to give you the details until we go to the details. But then in the end, he invited Jacob to travel with him back to his home in Seir. Unfortunately, Jacob didn't want to go to the way that his brother was heading to. Instead, he told Esau that his children are frail, and as such, his company will travel slowly. He also refused the protection detail which his brother had offered. Eventually, Esau left and headed back to his homeland, that is in the south, that is Seir, and Jacob, instead of traveling towards Seir, where he said he would be coming to meet his brother, he went to the opposite direction, heading towards the north to Sukkoth. When he arrived in Sukkoth, unfortunately, disobediently, he built a permanent structure, and then again, he moved again west, setting up a camp outside of the city of Shechem. In fact, Jacob purchased the land he camped on from the people of Shechem, and he built an altar unto the Lord there, just as Abraham, his father, had done. The difference between now and Abraham is that Abraham built it on a land that he didn't own. Here, however, Jacob owns the land. He paid it with his own money, and so he's building an altar on a piece of land that he actually owns. He has the title deed for it. Unfortunately, Jacob's presence near Shechem was not very peaceful, as we shall see in the next chapter. That is chapter 34, the next episode. Please pick it up if you haven't already watched it on our YouTube channel. As described, a terrible, terrible story of violation and revenge, which shaped the destiny of the tribes of Israel. It was nasty, Just to give you spoiler alerts, Dinah, the daughter of Jacob, was raped by Shechem. Shechem was the son of the ruler of that place. And then the brothers decided to do a revenge in which they tricked the Shemites to go through a procedure of circumcision. And on the third day, they were so weak they couldn't fight. These guys decided to attack them, and they literally annihilated the entire city. All the men were literally killed. But hey, we'll pick up the details in the next episode. Please don't forget to pick it up if you haven't already watched it on our YouTube channel. There is our summary of Genesis chapter 33. Please find the full episode on our website, that is www.abdiministries.org. You could also find this on our YouTube channel. Our handle is Abdi Ministries. Yeah, Abdi Ministries. You could also find this on Spotify. Yes, you could also find that on Spotify. Simply search for Abdi Ministries for our podcasts.